Hey Steppers, I just wanted to get with you this week on step 10 and talk a little bit about discipline and perseverance, mainly perseverance. After we've done our list of people that we're willing to make amends to and then pray about each name, and then make appointments with each person and perform the restitution process, what will be the next natural thing? And that's what step 10 is all about. It's about continuing to take our personal inventory, and then when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. Now, a lot of times where I see people take a little bit of a divergent road here is where they think that wrong is when they, in fact, went and did something wrong, although that is wrong. Let's say, somebody gave me back the wrong change and I realized it but kept it and didn't decide to disclose honestly that they maybe gave me back too much. But wrong is, where did I fall short on being all that I'm capable of being? Where did I fall short on fulfilling all of my potential? And that's exactly where I believe that the framers of this work were talking about when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. Where did I fall short of being all that I could be? Where did I fall short on being the most outstanding individual I could have been in any given situation? Now that's why they say, oh, it sounds like a big order, or many of us exclaimed, what an order, I can't go through with it. Because that is a monumental amount of vigilance, paying attention to every thought, every action, every word, and maintaining a standard, a very high standard for my own living. And where do I compromise that standard? It's very difficult to do, is to hold high standards and always maintain them all the time. But that is the task, is to grow closer in likeness and image of my higher power. And it is a very daunting order. And when I'm wrong, I promptly, they could have wrote, later on, or they could have written, in a week or in 3 days. No, they wrote promptly, which means as soon as I realize it, I make restitution. I admit it, and then I move forward, amending that which I could have done much better. And I always think of this project I did with my son Brody. When he was a little boy, he had this research project in school, and there was a board. He was doing it on the Civil War, and we set up all these little plastic army men and stuff like that, and set up a battlefield, and we put it out. And I'll never forget, the one thing that stood out very strong to me was that as we did the research and we looked at how they battled in hand-to-hand combat and they would advance the troops forward, a very important position on the field of battle was the guy who held the flag, because there was so much dust, there was so much confusion, there was so much noise in this gang fight. It was a huge hand-to-hand conflict that many times the troops didn't know if they were advancing or retreating on the battlefield. So the guy that held the flag was very important, and his pole was very high, and he would hold the flag very high. And if something happened to the standard bearer, that's what he was called, the standard bearer, and the standard was known as the flag, or the colors of their battle group. If something happened to the standard bearer, if somebody had a weapon, it was more important for that person to throw down his weapon and retrieve the standard than it was to perhaps be engaged with a weapon. So the standard was very important, and I always thought it was interesting how they would raise the standard, raise it real high, so we know if we're advancing or retreating in this battle of morality. Where could I have done better? I know right from wrong, and when I don't do right, why didn't I do right, and how can I fix that and go back and continue to do right? So it is a battle of vigilance. It is a battle of morality. It is a battle of good and evil and right and wrong. And it requires us to pay attention, because in many cases, if we're not advancing, we are in fact retreating. And the whole process, the whole program is summed up in the 10th step. The 10th step is all about perseverance. It's all about maintaining. It's all about continuing to do and continuing to go on this pathway that we've started with, whatever our date is. We have a vision of where we're going, and then we hold on to that vision and advance forward toward it. So we raise our standards and we engage in this battle of spirituality, for lack of a better word. And we have to pay attention. If we're not paying attention, then it's almost like we're asleep, and that's why the 12th step calls for a spiritual awakening. So we can wake up our spirit, realize what our potential is, and be uncompromising about fulfilling it. Now, will it be perfect? No. It's almost impossible to do it perfectly. But the whole point is to go for perfection and fall short of going for perfection. I would rather have very high standards and fall short of my vision than to have very low standards and be successful. Because if I'm successful with low standards, what have I accomplished? I've accomplished successfully holding low standards. So raise the standard, look around at where you're at, continue to do on the work, continue to stay on the beam, continue to advance in this process, and that is what the 10th step is all about. That's why the first word is continue. And who am I looking at? Myself. Because when I look at myself and I change those things in myself, in my actions, in my thoughts, in my attitudes, what happens is maybe nothing changes out there, but when I change, everything out there changes. My whole perspective, my whole understanding of everything going on around me changes because I've changed. So this is all about vigilance, and it's not an easy process. As a matter of fact, I submit the following. The further down you go on the road, the narrower the path gets. But the more discipline I acquire in staying on the narrow road, what happens is my alternatives open up. So it kind of looks like an hourglass. It gets narrower and then it opens up. And remember this, the only way out is through radical change. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.